Hey everyone. So, a lot of you have been asking for stories from my high school days. Most of them are pretty standard, funny, cringe, you know the deal. But there's one I've never really told anyone. Not my parents, not my best friends, no one. It's not that I thought they wouldn't believe me. It's that I needed to be sure I believed it myself. And now, a few years out, working a night security job that gives me way too much time to think, I think I'm ready to talk about it. This is about the old custodian, Mr. Abram, and the thing that lived in the walls of Northwood High. My name's Jack, I'm 21, and this is the truest story I know. It was my senior year, winter. I'd landed a pretty sweet after-school job helping the janitorial staff. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid better than flipping burgers and, most importantly, it was quiet. My boss was this old guy, Mr. Abram. He had to have been in his late 70s, maybe even 80s. He moved slow, with a slight limp, and his hands were a roadmap of blue veins and thick knuckles. But his eyes were this piercing, clear blue. They saw everything. He'd been the head custodian at Northwood since it was built in the 1950s. Knew every squeaky floorboard, every drafty window, every hidden nook. The school was his life. He had no family, no hobbies anyone knew about. Northwood was his kingdom, and we were just temporary guests. The job was simple: help him with the heavy lifting, take out the trash from the main offices, and do a preliminary sweep of the hallways after the final bell. It was during one of these sweeps, about a month into the job, that I first heard it. I was pushing a dust mop down the empty history wing. The sun was already setting, casting long, orange shadows through the classroom windows. The only sounds were the swish-swish of the mop and the hum of the fluorescent lights. Then I heard it. A scratching. Not a mouse in the wall scratching. This was deliberate. Like someone slowly dragging a fingernail along the other side of the lockers. I stopped. The sound stopped. I shook my head, blaming it on the old building settling, and kept mopping. The moment I took a step, it started again, keeping perfect pace with me. My heart did a little flip. I turned around sharply. Nothing. Just a long, empty corridor. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing stupidly. "Is someone there?" Silence. Then, a soft, dry rustle, like pages of a book turning very fast, followed by a faint, high-pitched whisper that seemed to come from a heating vent near the floor. I couldn't make out words. It was just noise, but noise that felt intentional, malevolent. I practically ran back to the janitor's closet, my heart hammering. Mr. Abram was there, meticulously cleaning a filter in the sink. "Mr. Abram? Did you hear anything weird out there?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He didn't look up. "Lots of things in an old building make weird noises, Jack. Pipes. Wind. Imagination." His voice was a low gravelly rumble. "This wasn't pipes," I insisted. "It sounded like whispering. And scratching." Finally, he turned his head, those blue eyes fixing on me. There was no surprise in them. Only a deep, weary caution. "You stay out of the sub-basement, boy. You hear? You do your job up here. You don't go looking for noises." "The sub-basement? I didn't even know there was one." "There isn't," he said sharply, turning back to his work. The conversation was over. But of course, that was all it took. The sub-basement. It was all I could think about. I started noticing things. How Mr. Abram would sometimes stop in the middle of a hallway and just listen, his head cocked. How he'd never, ever throw away any books from the library's discard pile. Instead, he'd carefully place them on a specific shelf in his closet. And the whispers? I heard them again, a few times. Always when I was alone. Always from the vents. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. I was taking out the trash from the main hallway bins, a simple job. As I lifted the bag from the last bin, something fluttered out from underneath it, a small, handmade booklet. It looked ancient. The cover was made of faded construction paper, and the pages inside were yellowed and filled with childish, crayon drawings. It was a kid's book. The title, scrawled in wobbly letters, read, "The Story of the Quiet One." My blood ran cold. I don't know why. It was just a forgotten art project. But I pocketed it, a strange compulsion taking over. That night, in my room, I looked at it under my desk lamp. The drawings were crude. A stick figure child crying. A dark, scribbly shape in a corner. Another drawing showed the same shape, bigger now, with a huge, jagged mouth, eating the scribbles that represented the child's toys. The text was simple, misspelled, and horrifying. Page 1. Tommy is sad. His toy Brock. He has nothing to play with. Page 2. A voice from the wall says I can play. I am quiet. Page 3. The quiet one plays. He takes the Brock toy. He fixes it. But it is his now. Page 4. Tommy wants a new toy. The quiet one says I can get it. But you have to give me a story. Page 5. Tommy gives a story. The quiet one gives a toy. It is a good trade. Page 6. Tommy has no more stories. The quiet one is hungry. He says then I will take a different story. Page 7. The quiet one takes Tommy. Now Tommy's story is quiet. The last page was just a black crayon scribble. I felt sick. It was just a creepy story, some kid's dark imagination. But it felt too specific. The whispers, the scratching, the thing that wanted stories. The next day at work, I confronted Mr. Abram. I showed him the book. His face, usually a mask of stoic calm, crumpled. He looked ancient, terrified. He took the book from my hands as if it were made of glass. "Where did you find this?" he whispered. "By the trash." "What is this, Mr. Abram? What is the quiet one?" He sighed, a sound of immense weight and sorrow. He locked the janitorial closet and gestured for me to sit on an upturned bucket. He remained standing, leaning heavily on his mop. "It's old, Jack. Older than this school. This land, it's always been hungry. When they built this place, they poured the foundation right on top of its nest. Its listening place." He spoke in a low, hurried whisper, his eyes constantly darting to the air vent. "It doesn't like loud noises. It likes quiet things. Stories. Memories. Thoughts. It feeds on them. It trades for them." "Trades? Trades what?" "Small things at first," he said. "A lost pencil appears right where you need it. A test answer you forgot suddenly pops into your head. It's helpful. It asks for little in return. Just a story. A secret. A memory you don't mind losing. But it's never enough. It's always hungry. And if you have no stories left to give..." He trailed off, looking at the childish book in his hands. "Tommy?" I asked, my voice barely a breath. He nodded slowly. "Thomas Albury. 1958, first one. He just vanished. They said he ran away. But I knew. I've always known. My job, my real job, isn't to clean this school. It's to keep it fed. To keep it quiet." "How?" I asked, horrified. "Books," he said, pointing to the shelf of discards. "Stories nobody wants anymore. I feed them to it. Down in the sub-basement. through a grate in the foundation wall. It likes the paper, the ink. It consumes them. It keeps it calm. For a while, the pieces crashed together. The old man wasn't just a custodian. He was a warden, a keeper. "You have to show me," I said, a reckless courage seizing me. "You have to show me the sub-basement." He refused, vehemently. But I was young and stupid and thought I understood the world. I threatened to go to the principal, to the police. I didn't believe him, not really. I thought he was a sad, confused old man. I thought seeing the place would snap him out of it, or prove it was all a delusion. Finally, defeated and terrified, he agreed. "One look," he said. "Then you leave. You never speak of this. You quit this job and you forget." He led me to a part of the boiler room I'd never seen, behind a huge, rusted iron furnace. There was a door, so covered in grime and dust it was nearly invisible. It wasn't even a proper door, just a hatch, like one for a crawl space. He unlocked it with a key he wore on a chain around his neck. The air that wafted out was frigid and carried a smell I will never forget, the dry, sweet, awful scent of old paper and dust, undercut by something metallic, like ozone before a storm. A set of narrow, concrete steps led down into absolute darkness. Mr. Abram went first, his flashlight beams shaking. The sub-basement was just a small, square room of raw concrete. And it was empty. Except for one thing. In the far wall, right at floor level, was a grate, like a large heating vent. But the holes were too small, the metal too thick. It looked more like the door to a bank vault's deposit slot. And in front of it, the floor was clean. Not a speck of dust. And it was covered in children's things. A single marble. A hair ribbon. A few plastic toys. And stacks of old books, their pages riffling slightly though there was no draft. "This is it," Mr. Abram whispered. "The listening place. Now you see. Now we go." But I didn't want to go. I was mesmerized. I took a step closer to the grate. The whispering started again, but this time it wasn't faint. It was a chorus, a susurrating cascade of half-words and sighs, like 1,000 people all telling their stories at once from a great distance. It was coming from behind the grate. And then I heard my name. Not shouted. Not whispered. Pulled. It was pulled from the chorus, woven from the noise, and offered to me. "Jack." I knelt down. I shouldn't have. I know I shouldn't have. I brought my face level with the dark holes of the grate. The whispers stopped. Absolute silence. And then, from the profound blackness behind the metal, something moved. I saw it. I still see it when I close my eyes. It wasn't a shape. It was an absence. A patch of darkness so complete it hurt to look at. And in the center of that absence, 2 points of light appeared. Not eyes. They were like the shimmer of oil on water, shifting, prismatic. They were focused on me. And I felt it. A pressure not on my ears, but inside my skull. A pulling. It was tasting my thoughts. Sifting through my memories like pages in a book. I felt a sudden, vivid flash of my 5th birthday party, the taste of chocolate cake, the sound of my dad laughing, and then it was gone. Ripped right out of my head. The memory was still there, but it was flat. Empty. Like a photograph of a photograph. The thing behind the grate let out a sound. A dry, rustling, satisfied sigh. It had liked it. It wanted more. I screamed and scrambled backward, falling over Mr. Abram. The old man moved with a speed I didn't know he possessed. He shoved a thick, leather-bound book through the grate's slot and slammed a heavy metal shutter down over it, locking it with a rusty bolt. The whispering erupted into a furious, scratching hiss that battered against the metal door. The whole grate shook, but the shutter held. Mr. Abram dragged me up the stairs, out of the boiler room, and into the bright, fluorescent light of the main hallway. I was hyperventilating, tears streaming down my face. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me with those tired, ancient eyes, filled with a pity so deep it was unbearable. I quit the next day. I told everyone I needed to focus on my grades. I avoided that wing of the school until I graduated. Mr. Abram died the summer after I finished high school. Peacefully in his sleep, they said. The new custodian is a young guy. Efficient. He probably thinks the sub-basement is just a locked-up storage closet. But I know what's down there. And sometimes, late at night, when the world is perfectly quiet, I'll get this itch in the back of my mind. A feeling of something sifting, listening. And a thought that isn't quite my own will drift into my head. It's a story. A new one. A good one. And a part of me, a part one try very hard to silence, wonders what it would trade for it. So, that's my story. The one I never tell. Maybe you believe it, maybe you don't. But if you're ever in an old building, and you hear a scratching in the walls, just remember. Some stories are meant to be kept. And some things are better left quiet.